Welcome to Eligeo Business Solutions weekly webinar series. Each week, we tackle a new product, feature, and idea to help you better manage your business. We help our clients make business software work for them by providing technology consulting and custom software solutions. Today, we will discuss Monday.com's newest feature, My Work. So let's dive in.
And I am an account manager here at Eligeo. I do focus mostly with Monday.com, so there are a lot of new features that are being rolled out in the past coming months and the remaining months of 2021 here. So a lot of exciting things coming up, but what I'll be talking about today is the My Work feature. It is still in beta, but it does have pretty extensive features already just in the beta that I will touch on how it works and how you can use it and how you can really work it into your team's workflow as well. So without further ado, I will share my screen with you. So first things first, since this feature still is in beta, it might not be available on your account right now, and that would only be built in. So you are able to access features that are in beta or that Monday.com is currently testing in the Monday.com labs right here. So I would recommend taking a look at Monday.com labs just to see what's really coming up in the queue and which new features are being rolled out. So if you don't see My Work in this section right here, in this little widget or module, I would suggest taking a look right here. And it's called My Work V2 Replace My Week. So it is replacing My Week if you currently use that feature. It is very similar, but it's really an upgrade from My Week and the current features that are available on My Week as well. And I'll really show you exactly what the changes are and how your team can really work it into your workflow. So as long as you have that activated, you will see My Work just in your left sidebar here. And once we actually dive into it, you'll see really what My Work is. So it is a great way where you'll be able to see everything that you or your team is currently working on with their Monday.com account. So once our page loads here, the things that you would need to make sure that these items or these projects that your team is working on or yourself, all you would need is the people column itself and a date column is what I would suggest. It's not necessary. You would be able to still access those other items that don't necessarily have a due date to them, but it does help organize the information on My Work altogether, which again, once this loads in, I will show you exactly what I'm talking about here. Okay, so just a little delay on my end here, so my apologies. But I would also suggest you taking a look at those other features. So through Monday Labs, there are quite a few other extensive features that you would find. I know work docs, like Sonia mentioned as well. That was available in the beta before it was fully released. So it really is kind of an inside scoop to other features that are being rolled out for Monday.com in general. So I would suggest taking a look at that at least every 4 weeks because as you know, Monday does evolve pretty rapidly. So it's always nice to stay on top of what features are being rolled out and really kind of getting on top of that. But we're almost there. The green bar is starting to move. Unfortunately, internet must be a little slow today, but we'll get there. And then as a reminder as well, so I will touch on it now, is that this feature is also available on the mobile app itself. And there are a couple differences from what you would see on the desktop version compared to the mobile app. And there actually are a couple extra features that you would find on mobile itself, which I'll touch on in a little bit. So as you can see, the page is loaded in. And this is really what you get with My Week. So it really helps bring all the information that would be pertaining to each individual or each team into one location. So this is something that if you're using Monday.com as a CRM, this is a great way to actually manage all the calls or the tasks that you've set up for any given day or the week. Or also a common use case for this would be a ticketing system where you can actually dive into any tickets that are submitted, and then you can automatically be assigned to it. It would show up into your My Week. So you can really work out of this view quite a bit. And again, you can just find it in this left column, and it does pull information from all of your boards. So it doesn't really matter what plan your team is currently on. It will pull all that information into into this feature itself. So as you can see, there is the item itself, which you can see on the left side, and you can still access the update section, which is a great improvement from My Week itself, where you weren't actually able to make any updates in My Week itself. So My Work, that's one improvement already. And then you can also see what board that these tasks are referring to, what group they're referred to, as well as the people assigned. So if there are multiple people assigned to one task or item on your board, you are able to actually access that and collaborate with those other members on My Work itself. And then again, like I mentioned, I would suggest having the date column in there as well, but obviously some tasks don't necessarily have a due date itself. But what you would find you would find them right in the bottom group here, where it would just say without a date, and you can still access this information exactly the same as you would with either ones with due dates that are today, past dates that have already transpired, or also later dates that are coming up in your schedule. And the great thing here as well is you can actually access the status column itself. And it's not just built off one status column, so you can indicate for each line item itself what status you would actually want to show in My Work. You can do that in multiple different ways. So you can do that just on the item level itself, where you can even mark this item as done. You can hide it on that board if it's not necessarily something that you need to tackle at that time. Or you can also dive into the different status columns that are available on the boards or where those items actually live. So for an example, the sales pipeline, if you have the status as negotiation, proposal, or these different statuses here, but you have a different status column of just closed or closed won, you can choose which one that you would actually want to have displayed. And again, that is just a quick example. But then you are also able, if there's an expected close date for the CRM usage again, if there's expected close date and then an actual close date, you can also identify which one that you would want to show into My Work as well. So you do have quite a bit of flexibility, and that again is just on the item level itself. But if you do want to get more in depth or more customized to My Work, you are able to do so through the top here. So you can always search out, and this would filter any information. So you can do that quickly, and almost instantly that information will actually be filtered out for you. But then you can go a step beyond. If you want to hide your done items itself, you can do that. And then also, once you hit customize here, this is where you can really dive into or expand your usage of My Work. So the first example of this would be for the people column. So if you do have other members of your team that you would want to be able to track to see what's on their plate, or say you're collaborating with another team member on a certain project, you would be able to identify what other projects that they're currently working on. And you can just add them into the filter itself, and then their information will automatically populate into My Work as well. So as you can see, Natasha here, she did have a couple tasks due this week, one for a later date, and then we are able to access this information. And again, if you did need to collaborate on these items, you are able to just make this update right through My Work as well. So it would eliminate quite a bit of back and forth or flipping between your different boards. So going back into the customize, we can go further in these levels. So you can actually indicate which boards that you would want that information to populate from. So as you can see, there are quite a few checked off. And again, like I mentioned, you might be aware that with the dashboard capabilities from, say, the Pro to the Enterprise, it is a change of being able to report information from 10 boards on the Pro plan to being able to report 50 boards on the Enterprise plan. But with My Work, there really is no limit. So you are able to access any line items itself that would be either identified as yours, so you would be a member in the people column itself, or the other member that you would choose through the people drop down here. And then going further, like I mentioned, you are able to update the status columns on which ones are actually represented on the line items itself, just through the line item or this drop down here. But you can also indicate that in the customization section here. So you can actually hit these drop downs. If there aren't any other status columns, it will automatically assign the only status column that's available. But say for, which one is it here? So I think it's the CRM, or I'll use the process management. So there are a couple different phases. So as you can see, you can actually indicate which phase that you would be really identifying in My Work. And again, I would suggest having it as the working on, the done, or the stuck column, because that is kind of that high level view of what's going on with that project altogether. And then moving on, you can really, like I mentioned, you can really identify any of these different columns as long as there are different status columns available on your boards. But then the date columns as well, very similar structure here, but you are able to actually access this information or hit the drop downs to select a different date column that might be available on that board. So let me just look into, yeah, so we'll use the event planning. Nope, sorry, we'll use the high level, or the Gantt chart, sorry. Nope, the other Gantt chart. Okay, my apologies. But yeah, there's different date columns here, so you can actually indicate. So if there's an expected time or expected close date to an actual close date, or when the project is due itself, you are able to actually resemble that into those columns there. So really, that is the basic usage of Monday.com's work, or My Work, sorry. The one thing to keep in mind is it is capable of actually pulling in sub items as well. And one thing to touch on with all these new features being rolled out is that sub items are also able now to cross over or be transferred from one board to another. So this could be done either through an automation or just manually exporting those line items from one board to another, that the sub items will actually carry along with them, which is a great advancement. And especially working out of something like My Work, it does give you a lot more flexibility with how you can use the feature itself. But before we begin, I want to check in to see, or before we continue, I do want to check in to see if we do have any questions. It does, yeah. So any changes that you do make on here, they do resemble, or they do mirror these items in the board itself almost instantly. So if I were to change the status to contract sent, as soon as I go into this board itself, which it will open a new tab for you to be able to access that full board, but it will automatically be updated on that board. But as it's loading in, and as we can see from the beginning, my internet is a little slow today. But it is now, it's updated on the board itself. So you can make the changes from My Work. Correct, yeah, you wouldn't need the mirror column or the connect boards column at all to be able to do this. This does happen automatically in the back end of Monday. So as long as you have that people column and someone assigned to it, you would be able to access this information from any board that's not private on your account. So if it is from a private board, that information wouldn't be displayed in My Work itself. But as long as there's a people column and you have access to that board, you would be able to access that information, or it would automatically be pulled into My Work. So there's not, and like I mentioned, so from Pro to Enterprise plan, there is a limitation of how many boards that you can report into a dashboard. But with My Work, it really is just pulling all this information into one place. Similar to Search Everything. So if you were to search a user or a person internally from your team, you are able to access most of the items, but this just keeps it into an easily accessible format for you. So it shouldn't be. So what I could imagine why that would be because there wouldn't be necessarily items that you're assigned to on different boards other than the two that you're currently seeing. So it will only show you boards in this drop down here that you are assigned to tasks on that board itself. So that I would suggest taking a look at that in the first place. And if you do want to test it out from those other boards, I would suggest creating a people column and then assigning you to one of those tasks and then seeing if it would populate into my work. Okay, yeah, so I touched on it pretty quickly at the beginning, but how you would actually access this right now, if you're still seeing my week, you are able to access the beta version through Monday.com Labs. And just through here, it's called My Work V2 Replace My Week. And you'll just have to select Activate. Since it is still in beta, it is under the Monday.com Labs right now, but it is very well functioning already. And I would suggest getting used to it and working it into your daily use case of Monday.com. Because it is a lot more in depth than what we saw with My Week. The last thing that I did want to touch on, and it's currently a little limited right now and it's still running off of My Week itself, would be adding this as a dashboard widget. So what I usually recommend for a lot of the clients that I work alongside is actually creating a personal dashboard for your use case. Unfortunately, the My Work itself is not available as a widget yet in the Widget Center, but still you can access a lot of that information through My Week itself. So what I usually recommend, especially if you're working a lot on your own or your own projects and tasks, would be to create a personal dashboard for yourself. If you have time tracking, you'll be able to see really any KPIs that your team's using or that you're really working on. And then you can have daily to-do lists, like you never want to forget to eat lunch, or anything else that you might need to really store on a daily basis. But then again, this is the widget that you would see with My Week itself. So this is the outdated version or the older version of My Work. But we are hoping to have this done soon or have this rolled out to everyone. But as you can see, there are quite a few advances, even just based on My Work right here in the widget that you can see with My Work. Yeah, My Work, sorry, where you can actually access the status column. So once that's rolled out as a widget, I would suggest downloading that, having it in your personal dashboard, and it just helps with transparency across anything else that you're doing on your Monday.com account. But one last thing that I did want to touch on was the difference of the mobile. Like I mentioned at the beginning, My Work is available on your mobile app as well, so iOS or Android. But the one great feature that you actually can have on the mobile, which isn't available on the desktop, is that you can actually create items on the mobile app itself. So you can type in the item name, you can indicate what board that you would want to have that populated into, as well as the different groups or people assigned, and you can really update any of that information all from your mobile itself. So that's just an idea if you are working out of Monday.com's apps on your mobile, that there is a little bit of an advantage just with that app currently. Again, it's still in beta, so it might be a feature that's being rolled out in the near future, but right now it is still only available on mobile. But with that said, that's pretty much My Work altogether. So if there are any more questions, I'd be happy to address them. So it would be through the dropdown itself, and that's why I suggest having that personal dashboard, because you do get more capabilities with the filtering of it itself. So you are able to filter down that information and actually indicate whose work or whose items are on their plate at any given time. But right now, the only capabilities with My Work for that is the dropdown. So you can't save the views, unfortunately. You would have to customize it every time. But hopefully that's something that's coming out in the future. I'm not completely sure though, to be honest with you. So it's still the outdated version of My Week as a widget currently, but you are able to create a dashboard the same way that you would with a normal board. So you can just go to my new dashboard. If you're having it as a private personal dashboard, I would suggest creating it as private. But from here, again, keep in mind that depending on which plan that you have on your account, it would be able to indicate which boards or how many boards that you would actually be able to pull into that dashboard. But say we'll just click a few here and done. And then you can go into the widget center itself. So show all the widgets. And like I mentioned, so the to-do list here, and then what you've been mentioned on throughout your whole account. And then also My Week is the other feature. So it's the outdated version of My Work itself, but it still has the main structure of My Work. And then again, you are able to get a little more advanced with the filters on the widget itself rather than just My Work.
So there we are. Thank you for watching. Eligeo is your go-to agency for fostering digital transformation using world-class products. We do this by digitizing and automating your marketing, project management, sales, and service systems. We are CRM architects, technology engineers, and business advisors. If you have any questions, please reach out to us at eligeo.com.